You may be seated. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this service of celebration. As a service of celebration, we encourage you to sing even if you don't think you can. Join in the songs. Also, before we begin our service, do take a moment to silence any devices so that no one else is disturbed during the service. We have a number of speakers lined up to give stories, tell memories, and then there will be an opportunity for anyone from the congregation who wishes to say something. That there are so many speakers, we do ask you to be mindful of that and to keep your remarks as concise as you can. Otherwise, you'll miss the luncheon, which is to follow our service. At the conclusion of the service, the clergy and I will lead the family downstairs, and then you all can follow and go through the receiving line to greet everyone. And then, of course, you're invited to stay for the luncheon after the service. I'm sharing this service with two co-celebrants. Claire North is here. She's a friend of the family. I believe did a wedding for a family member. A couple of them. Reverend Claire Longton North is a minister of spiritual science and founder of a community ministry in the mountains in Manchester, Vermont. So we welcome Reverend Claire. And also from Florida, I get the right town, from Marco Island, Reverend Ed Brandt, who has also known the family for several years. And like some of you who are snowbirds, he is Pam's pastor the other parts of the year. So we're glad to welcome Reverend Claire and Reverend Ed. With that, let us begin our service of celebration. You're welcome to stand for the Vermont State Song.
Hello, everyone, and my love and sympathy to you all for this day that is in it that we have. And it is my privilege and honor to introduce the family today. So I'll be introducing you each individually. And the first one to come to speak is Pamela Brainerd Gilbert.
First, I want to welcome everyone, and I have very special thank yous. Thank you to Reverend Mark, Reverend Claire, and Reverend Ed for being a part of the stories that are going to be told today. I also want to thank a very special kind of a cousin, Holly Gilbert, who without her wouldn't be kind of where I am today. And also Mike Harrington down at Express Copy. I spent hours with this man, and he was fantastic. And my children and my grandchildren who are here today, I thank them for being here. And so we're celebrating art. Arthur Ward Gilbert Jr., my husband of late, and we're going to tell stories. And stories have a beginning and they have an end. I am not working with that man. He doesn't smile. No, absolutely not. Terry Tyler. You want to get that book done? Art Gilbert. Oh my God, no. Ugh, no. I went home and I said, my gosh, I signed up to do this Dorset walk and drive guide tour book. Oh, there's nothing to it. There are pictures and all kinds of things written. And I'd go to the board meetings. I was on the board. Lay it out. Hey, George, how was that golf game? What? I'd sit down and Terry Tyler. Want that book done? Art Gilbert. Art would come to the meetings. He wasn't on the board prior to being, I mean, he was on the board. He was the president. He was the curator. He was the treasurer. You name it, he was on it. But he'd come and he'd sit in the corner with his arms crossed, and he never smiled. I was on the board the first year, second year, the third year, when I decided, oh yeah, I can do this book. I never met him. Never met him. I said, he doesn't smile, I'm not meeting him. I am best friends with his cousin Jim and wife Peggy. They never talked about him, and they never talked about Walt. So I knew nothing about either one of them. So finally, I'm like home. I'm like, make the phone call. Okay. Art, certainly. Okay, sure. So anyway, I'd not knowing anything again about him, I knew where he lived, so I took papers up, and I'm like, and this, that, and thank you very much, and I left, expecting him to do whatever it was that I was giving the pointing to. Boom, boom. Well, the next time I went back, then I found out that he had been married, or he was married, and the wife was in hospice, and I went, oh, my Lord, okay. So I still dropped things off. But then I had a trip to Uganda, and I'm gone for a month. So I come back, wife has passed, and I said, now we got to get in the car. Oh, God, get in the car. So we drive around, because you can't have everything in the walk and drive tour guide. So I look at a picture, I said, I don't like that picture. Well, what's wrong with that picture? I said, well, I don't like it, and I'm a fairly good photographer. So I got out, boom, boom, and did this a few times on the drive too. And so we proceeded, and we get to the end. The book wins a state award. And who do I find out took those pictures? Arthur Ward Gilbert Jr. And did he ever say a word? Nothing. Nothing. So the end of the story is, though, I have been looking for you all my life. And Art, honorable, many facets of his life, trustworthy, sense of humor, kind, trustworthy, fit as a fiddle. I can handle that. That was after I said, now look, I figured out the proposal. I had to read his mind, you know. He never really actually came out and said, will you marry me? No. I think that's a good idea. What's a good idea? I just think it's a good idea. I thought, my God. And we're up in Montreblanc, you know, at this bed and breakfast. We'd been the first go-round. And I went, oh, wait, is he proposing? Is this his way of proposing? Yeah, sure enough, that's what it was. So I said, okay, Art, now look, you know I have 3 children, I have 4 grandchildren. I can handle that. I said, okay, well, I knew I'd be moving into his house. I said, well, what about this house in the grounds? Well, if he had said, now, This has to stay here, and this over here, and you can't move that, and you can have a couple of bushes. I would have said, Art, it's best if we're just friends. This is not going to work. He said, Pam, there's nothing sacred here. Do whatever you want. And whatever you want, I heard for 23 years. I never heard him yell, other than Art and Dan had given us a kitten to foster, and he saw a fox and the cat's outside, and all of a sudden I heard this bloom. I said, my God, what's going on? You know, it flies out the door, the fox disappears, and the cat goes up the tree. Nor did I ever hear any unsavory language. A gentleman, perfect. Everybody loved him. So we're celebrating. We're going to tell some really good stories. And I could keep you here, I'm telling you, for a long time, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to conclude because other people have something to say. And that's that.
It's the hardest thing to do, to get up after a very intimate loss and death and be able to speak to it. So everyone, give love, give support. We take our time, we pause. If there are tears, we breathe. And next is Art's brother, Walt Gilbert. Walt, please come up. Good.
Thanks to all of you for coming. It's been quite a trip for me just in the last few months, trying to wrap my thoughts around a 96-year-old brother. Unfortunately for me, I missed the first 10 years of his life because he's 10 years older than I am. So I can't tell you a whole lot about that. Several things come to mind about his life. As a family, we traveled a lot, so he saw much of the United States. When he was in high school, he had a friend, had a family ranch in Texas, so he spent a couple of summers on a working ranch in Texas. And of course we had trips to Colorado and Vermont and California. So he was a well-traveled man. And then he got drafted, went off to Korea, and that opened a whole new world for him. He came back to this country and went back to work with Standard Oil. And in that job, he again traveled, but this time throughout the world. Alaska, just as a prelude to that, he was a geologist and hired to do exploration for oil. So he was in Alaska, England, Siberia, Trinidad and Tobago, and many, many more. As I said, he was a well-traveled man. After he retired, he moved back to Vermont to be close to the family home and our parents. And he got involved in community activities and family activities. Much of that was spent simply checking in on our parents who lived next door to where he built his house in Dorset. And he did that almost daily. He was dedicated to making sure that they were okay, had what they needed, and had a visit from their eldest son. And he also visited a lot of other family members who lived in Dorset: Jim and Peggy, Betty, Dorothy, Aunt Dot, and many others. He got involved in a variety of community activities, such as Meals on Wheels, and that spread his awareness of others in the community and people that he would learn to know. And of course, he was very active in the Dorset Historical Society. He pitched his life right into that, researching, following up on leads, learning about not only Dorset, but industry here, the involvement of our family in Dorset. So he really was quite active in all of that. But a little story for you. His interest and love for the family had a personal touch for me. He had gone off to college, to Beloit College in Beloit, Wisconsin. And after a couple of years there, he came back home. And he went to school at the University of Kansas City, now known as the University of Missouri at Kansas City. You can see just how progressive we were, right? So the nice thing about that was that the school, University of Kansas City, was right down the street from where we lived. Walk down Home Street, 5-6 blocks, and you were on the campus of the university. The nice thing was his route down Home Street took him right by the elementary school where I was enrolled in school. So for a couple of years anyway, we would see each other, he walking home after class, me riding my bike to home for lunch or after school or whatever it might be. And the route down the road, Home Street, to where we lived, had a nice incline down to 55th Street, and then there was an intersection, and then another block up to our house. And there wasn't a whole lot of traffic on 55th Street, but I was inclined to kind of let it rip. And I came flying down that hill one day when he happened to be walking by. And idiot that I was, I didn't slow down or stop. I just kept roaring across the street. And I got home before he did, but he wasn't far behind me. And then he let me know what a dumb thing that was to do, how dangerous it was. And I never did that again. And from then on, it put a whole new perspective in my mind about the dangers of life and how to be careful, watching out not only for ourselves, but for others too. After 96 years, there's got to be more here. Yes. When he settled in Dorset, he got involved in a lot of things, but just to summarize what Art was about, he was very energetic, but at the same time, he was often quite reserved, quiet, thoughtful, and also helpful. But he was also unassuming in what he did, and his accomplishments, his involvement in the community. He loved the outdoors, and hiking from when we were youngsters was always a big deal. And I think that was in the genes. Our grandfather, George Holly Gilbert, not only loved to hike, but he created much of the trail system in Dorset. And that's something that Art took up as a mission for himself in life, was to create, repair, promote the use of the Dorset trail system that our grandfather had established. At the same time, Art was very interested in developing his own piece of property on the West Road, repairing the stone walls that our grandfather had started, repairing, extending, building new walls. He just couldn't stop. He just got going and just going and going and going, like the Energizer Bunny. There were also a lot of apple trees on his piece of property. Again, many of them were old, but he took a real interest in learning about them, taking care of them, harvesting the apples, and a good thing for us was the sharing of those apples with us next door. And the last thing I would talk about is his interest in the mountains. He talked about his hiking, but he also loved to climb. And we had gone out on a camping trip in Aspen, Colorado one year. I don't even think I was driving yet, so I was an early teenager. Art was working in the area. He came by and he met us at the campground near Maroon Lake, near Aspen. And by the time we got settled in, here comes Art walking up and says, "Oh, hi, Mom, Dad, Walt, Fran, whatever." Turns out he had just climbed a 14,000-foot peak there on his own. Not the brightest thing to do in the world, because that rock in the Aspen area is a little rotten. But he was very proud of having climbed one of the 14,000-foot peaks in that area. And our mother was very relieved when he showed up. He did climb it alone, but he encountered a couple of other climbers there, and they gave him some pointers on the best way to get back up and then back down. So it all worked out okay. In the latter years, say the last 3 or 4 or 5 months, he and I both began reflecting on climbing activities that we had done. I had also been out, and I went to school in Colorado, so I had exposure to some of those mountains. I'm not sure exactly what the count is, but at one time it was 52 of the peaks in Colorado that were 14,000 feet or more, known as the 14ers. And when we got to talking about it and sharing experiences, turns out that he had climbed 10 of those peaks. A couple of times, or for one of the mountains, he did 2 climbs on it. I only climbed 5 of them. But one of those I climbed twice also. Peter knows about that mountain. We got comparing notes, and turns out that out of all of those mountains, we had climbed together 3 of them. And there were 2 or 3 others that we also had climbed, just not together. So that was a special time for me, being able to share experience and activities with my brother Art. And all of that time when I was back in Dorset and he was next door, gave us a lot more time together. It was an opportunity to build a good bond, brotherly bond between the two of us. And I was so fortunate to have a special brother like Art. Thank you. And thank you. Get on my left side if you would. Left side. There you go. This is almost as hard as one of the 14s. One of those 14,000.
Thank you, Walt. Next up, Pam's son, David Nolan. David, you're very welcome.
Hello, everybody. My name is David Nolan. I'm Pam's son. I had the privilege to know Art for the 23 years that they were together. Art truly was a special person. I don't think I've ever met a man as kind and sweet and loving than Art in my entire life. I was down there in December, and my mother, loves for me to tell this story, but my mother and Kathleen were going to go somewhere, and Kathleen had been telling me about the bike rides that Art and her were going on. And I was like, I said, hey, Art, let's go for a bike ride. And he's like, absolutely. So he had to get the bike off the wall, and his bike was already set up, and he's like, well, I got to put some air in your tires. And I was like, oh, okay, let me help you. And we were doing that, and he went inside to do something. So I reached over and I touched his tires. And so I was like, oh, he needs a little air. So I put some air in his tires, and he came out, and I'm getting ready or doing something. He's already on the bike, and I get out and I looked, and I'm like, where the hell is he? I literally went out to the street, and I looked down, and and there was somebody way down the street, and I was like, oh my God, that's Art. So I just got up there, I caught up to him, and we finally got to the clubhouse where we were going, and I was like, thank God. The man was gone, and on it. And what's funny is that, we biked literally half the day, and it was so much fun. But the man was like a machine. He was just going and going, and like the Energized Bunny Walt was talking about. And the one thought that came to my mind was, I was like, why did I fill his tires up? I was thinking I was going to keep up with him at least. But he's truly going to be missed, and no question, we loved him very, very much. Thank you.
I'd like to bring Lynn Fisher up, Art's niece. You're very welcome, Lynn.
All right. Well, as one of Art and Walt's nieces, I have always thought that uncles and aunts are terrifically important people in a person's life because they show you different ways of being an adult, different ways of being in the world. And I've thought about that way since I was a child. So thinking about my Uncle Art, it was a real challenge to choose just a few memories of a family member that you've known your whole life. But as an archaeologist, I was, like Uncle Art, takes a bit of a stratigraphic approach to thinking about life. I decided I would try to think in terms of 3 time periods, which is what archaeologists do. So you've got the older, the middle, and the younger. The advantage of that, of course, is you get younger as you get closer to the present. My oldest memories of Uncle Art are of a quietly funny guy who would always stop to answer questions, often with a joke and with a very distinctive chuckle, which I know all of you will be familiar with. The middle period of my Uncle Art memories come from my teenage and young adult years when my sisters and I often visited with our mother in Dorset for Christmas. And Uncle Art, as I'm sure you know, was a real daredevil and an absolute shark in Scrabble, ping pong, and croquet. He introduced me and my sisters to the joys of sliding down one hill or another at a very great rate of speed. It's kind of the opposite of what Walt was telling us. I guess we learned to stop at the bottom, right? Either on a scree slope or a jack jumper. And those are great memories for all of us, I think. I personally was never the most coordinated person, but I think we all learned from that particular uncle a little bit about being bold in the world, which is a valuable lesson, right? And my youngest memories of Uncle Art are from the last couple of decades, when my sisters and I have come to the Beanhole whenever we could. And on those visits, Uncle Art, by this time retired and living in Dorset, was always so generous about sharing his time, and he would offer us personal tours of the newest exhibits at the Historical Society, for example. And of course, he'd always go snowshoeing or hiking with us. He brought us a new aunt in Pam, and I am grateful for, most recently, the amazing warmth and generosity of the home that they built together in welcoming traveling members of the Gilbert clan. So I feel lucky to have these memories, and I'm sure I'll keep learning new things about how to be in the world from those memories and others in the years to come. So thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Casey Correal, Pam's grandson, and also Art's grandson, very beloved.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming out. We celebrate today's day for Art and, the recent passing. Art was truly a special person. He was family, he was a friend, and to me, he was a grandfather. He was compassionate, respectful, patient, and loving, and these were just a few of the qualities that made him the man that he was. He made people welcomed, he cared for them, he valued them. His kindness left a lasting impact on everybody that knew him. While we are heartbroken by the way we lost him, today is about remembering the life he lived rather than the circumstances of his passing. We come together to honor his memory, celebrate the love he shared, and be grateful for the time we were blessed to have him. I would like to talk about a little bit what we would do. We would always go on bike rides. We would travel up, Dorset West Road and go down to Lane Road and look at the little river. And he would always tell me stories, or anecdotes. I'd always, go raspberry picking with him, and we would always pick apples, and, he'd tell me to always pick around the apples with the worms because they're still good apples. And, then he would make his infamous apple pie that we'd all enjoy, and, he really spent a lot of time on the little things and enjoying the nature of this life. And so I'd like to thank you all again for coming out and celebrating this lovely person that we knew as Art. Thank you.
Casey, thank you. Next, Cindy Fisher, another niece of Art's. You're very welcome up, Cindy.
Hello. Our Uncle Art was always willing to share his knowledge with his nieces. For example, when we were young readers, we pointed out difficult words in books we were reading, and he would tell us how to pronounce them. Words like melancholy and massacre. And we knew he was a geologist, as were both of our parents, and one of us, maybe Lynn, once asked him to help identify the stone in rings we were given at the dentist's office. He examined them carefully and informed us gravely that it looked like an ersatz. So we assumed at the time that it was a semi-precious stone. So our Uncle Art always seemed to us to have a quite reserved, button-up manner, typically unsmiling, but we also always saw the twinkle in his eye and the kindness that made his every joke an inside joke, a funny challenge that assumed we were smart and capable even as young children. My sisters and I wish we'd had more time with Uncle Art. We never lived in the same town, so our memories are all derived from brief visits and family vacations, and the three of us are maybe not so different from Uncle Art, a bit reserved. But he was always there from the time we were born and always welcomed us as close family. And I just want to remark, in the competition of counting 14ers, our mother might want you to know that she was up there too. She had a count. I don't know if it was between where it was between 0 and 10, but it was somewhere. And I so value that history and those stories of hearing about those hikes and climbs. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Next, E.J. Alahuzos, Pam's grandson, Art's grandson, and beloved by him.
Hello, everybody. So it's kind of hard for me to think about exactly what I wanted to talk about and who Art is, because a man like this is hard to put into words. The fact that we were able to be so welcomed into his family and be so welcomed into his life was pretty amazing. It never really missed a beat when we were introduced to him to the last time that we got to see him. I think that what was so incredible about Art was that he was able to connect with you almost immediately, even sometimes without even saying a word. I think that what I found and saw his amazing abilities was when I came to the Bean Hole probably 10 years ago, or I think 12 years ago, and we all went on the first hike, and this is back when I still like to drink a lot. And I had a great time the night before, and I woke up and I was like, yeah, I'm going on this hike still. I can do this. And we all get there, and I think I started off really well and stopped at a log where I found myself half dying. And of course, Art finds his way right past me, and it's like, hey, how's everything doing? You doing all right? You doing okay? And I'm looking at my, friend at the time, and I'm like, what? Did he just pass me? Like, hold on, I can't do this. This isn't going on right now. Who is this man? And it just showed how kind he was, and he never said anything about it. Never made me feel bad, but was right there along, just showing how amazing he is and how amazing you can be when you're honest and when you are like Art. So I think it's important to be like Art. I think that's something I think about a lot when it comes to being someone that I want to be. It's just to be a lot like him. I think that's something we can all take from. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you, E.J. Peter Gilbert is next, Art's cousin. Thank you, Peter. You're very welcome.
It's appropriate that Art was a geologist. He loved mountains, Rocky Mountains, Green Mountains, any kind of mountains. He was solid as a rock, and in fact, he was the bedrock of the Gilberts in Dorset for a long time. My three siblings and I go back with Art nearly to the beginning of our lives. We were very young kids living in Denver, and Art was in grad school in geology at the University of Colorado, Boulder. There it is again, Boulder. Our folks said that he'd show up sometimes at the door in the evening with his suitcase stashed out of sight on the porch until Mom caught on and would tell him to grab his bag and come on in. Later, he'd just quietly let himself in the door, knowing that that was the time in the evening that we young kids were being put to bed. And that we were so fond of him that if we knew he was arriving, we'd get all revved up and not get to sleep for a while. So one night, Mom was coming down the stairs, having just put us to bed, when she saw not the head, but the boots and the jeans and the jean jacket of a young man slipping in the door in the night. She had quite a scare for a few minutes until she realized it was Art. And my sister Ann tells us that Mom and Dad had told her that if she had been a boy, they were going to name him, John Arthur, with a nod towards Art, because they were so very fond of him. My favorite memory of Art is more recent, just 2 years ago. That of him dancing up a storm in his seersucker suit at the wedding reception in Dorset of our daughter Carolyn and her husband Hugh. I won't say that Art had the moves like Jagger, but he was fantastic. To live that long, to do so much, to be so beloved and so respected, and to have so much fun. That's pretty great.
Peter, thanks so much. And now we're going to have a musical interlude, and it's the song You'll Never Walk Alone. So please raise your voices, stand if you would like. That's always a good idea when you're singing. I'd like to bring up Art's beloved cousin, Holly Gilbert. And Holly is going to be reading the poem, Mount Aeolus, by George H. Gilbert, Sr. Please come up, Holly. You're very welcome.
As Claire just said, this poem is written by Art's grandfather, my great-grandfather, George Holly Gilbert, Sr. He wrote it in 1889, and it was read in his honor at the dedication of Gilbert Lookout in August 1932. In Greek mythology, as you know, Aeolus is the god of the wind. Mount Aeolus. As the angel came up from the east with the seal of the Lord in his hand, so Mount Aeolus raises its crest by the loveliest vale in the land. There it says to the east wind, blow not in thy strength on this valley of mine. I was set here as a shield for this spot long ago by a counsel divine. There it beckons the clouds to come near as they sail the blue seas of the sky. They must send on the meadows the cheer which they hold in their fountains on high. On the brow of Mount Aeolus fair, a rich chaplet of green rests for aye, as a sign of the garlands they wear who may walk the sweet hills far away. The last beam of the sun lingers long on Mount Aeolus, over the vale, ere the day dies away as a song, and the stars tell their wonderful tale.
Well, grace and peace to you. My name is Ed Brand from sunny, humid Florida, here in humid Vermont. So we have that. A big thank you to Mark and also to Claire for allowing me to be part of the ceremony. And Pam, thank you so much for your gracious hospitality. When we learned about the service and making our way to Dorset, I had no idea where Dorset was located. So I looked it up in the dictionary and it said, see Gilbert. Had no idea what that meant. Pam, you said three words that really speak to Art's love and care and knowing what's important in life. And these are three words that I think spouses need to internalize in their relationship. It's like whatever you want. It shows kindness, patience. It shows a deep love. It also shows a willingness to realize that some of the things that we get all wrapped around the axle with, that's a Lancaster County term, by the way, they're not that important. But whatever you want. What a loving phrase to say. I met Art at, of all places, a funeral reception. And there we met you, and you met Jane, and introduced Art to our monthly Scotch meetings at my home. It was our second exercise of communion, which was a little bit more intoxicating than Sunday mornings. But what I found in Art was this calm, placid exterior with raging waters underneath that of thought, of analysis, of how he thinks. And so what we learn from all of this, especially the way Art was taken, is that time is the most important thing. And love whatever you want. What a great phrase that every single man today should be saying to their spouse later on today. And so with those thoughts, I'd like to invite anyone who'd like to come forward and offer some thoughts and memories. My motto is, be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. So if you'd like to say a couple words or share a story, please come here to the lectern, and you're more than welcome to.
Hi, everybody. I'm old and I don't see real well, so I can't exactly see exactly who I'm speaking to, but I know a lot of you. I didn't know Art. I'm Kay Manley. And I didn't know Art before Pam. So it's never been Art. It's always been Pam and Art. What a couple. I have this picture in my mind that I remember thinking when I first met them of Art as this sort of smiling, very quiet scarecrow that watched over things. And he was circled constantly by a whirling dervish, just constantly. And he just took it. Whatever it was, he took it. And Pam's just going a million miles an hour around him. Wham, wham, wham. And my first experience I had met Art at the Historical Society. My family was one of the 5 founding families in Dorset, so we had a lot to talk about. And Pam was in the process of trying to put together this marble exhibit. And somehow, I was on the board, somehow I agreed to do it with her without having met her. What an experience. And I'm thinking, Art? And she's like, wow, 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 wow. And I'm like, what, how do these two people get along? Well, I guess beautifully, because it was one of the most beautiful relationships I've ever had the opportunity to experience, truly. She brought out things in him that I don't think anyone else could. He was the most special person. I swear, he just was a special guy, and I loved him deeply. And one of the funniest memories that I have was it his 70th birthday party that we had at my house? Was it 70th? His 70th?
Well, we had 70, then we had 80.
But the party at my house, the one that we had later on, I think it was his 70th birthday party. And it was a surprise. And Pam had come in and spent, 3 days rearranging my house, getting ready for this party, which was a surprise to Art. And what he did know was that we were going to be going up to the barn for dinner. So we all went up to the barn for dinner. We had a great dinner. We put Art in the car and then said, Art, we have a surprise, so we're going to blindfold you. And he said, what? Blindfold? I don't think so. Well, we blindfolded him. He rode back in the car, stiff as a board. We get to my house, and we open the door, and this is this is a perfect example of the whirling dervish and the, slow guy. He steps out and then he steps back in the car like he's not going to go. And Pam's like, Art, come on, we've got to go. This is a surprise for you. So one foot goes down the pathway to my front door, the other foot steps back. Art, we've got to go. Okay. It took us 20 minutes to get him off the path and the stairs to my front door to get the door open. He was not going. And it was just this, come on, let's go. We could, you don't have to be afraid. This is good. This is good. Anyway, I loved him. I loved him dearly, and I love Pam. It's good to see everybody. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come forward and say a couple words? Okay, well, thank you. There'll be a time in the fellowship hour to share and catch up as well.
This is a celebration. We hope that as you join in this last song, Climb Every Mountain, recognizing that these were favorite songs of Art and Pam and have great meaning for them. So we encourage you for this closing song to stand as you are able and let us sing. Please remain standing for our blessing, our benediction.
All right, everyone. I'm glad you're standing. I'm glad you're all here with us. And we're going to do a call and response for this. So each of us on our turn up here will say a line, and you will call it out after us.
Love is our path.
Love is our path. We lead with peace. We lead with peace.
We choose forgiveness.
We choose forgiveness.
Compassion lives in us.
Compassion lives in us. Our hearts offer welcome. Our hearts offer welcome.
We grow in kindness.
We grow in kindness.
Our hands give blessings.
Our hands give blessings. We give and receive comfort. We give and receive comfort.
We take care of each other.
We take care of each other.
I invite you to come downstairs. You can go through this door, and there are stairs and elevators that way, or back that way. There are stairs to the vestry where the lunch has been prepared, an opportunity for you to greet the family, spend a moment with Pam, share more stories, and enjoy the fellowship of this celebration.